Hey, what's up? I got some more lore content for you guys. So I wanted to make a short crafting guide in order to show what the best cards are to craft ASAP for each region. I want this to be a good resource for new players in order to show what cards are strongest, and flexible staples to throw into most deck strategies. Before I get into the cards, if you're new, please consider hitting the subscribe button to stay up to date with my content. Our journey to 10k subs is still going strong, and I need all the support I can get, so it'd be awesome if you joined. This is the only channel where you can get my specific style of content, so you won't regret subbing. I also stream on Twitch often, so check me out over there if you're looking for live gameplay of someone who's hit high master tier every season, and even hit rank 1 in NA a while back. With that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Alright, starting with Demacia. The cards you should be looking to craft right away in terms of units will be Fleet Feather Tracker, Bright Steel Protector, Petricite Broadwing, Laurent Protege is pretty good, Screeching Dragon for sure, and then of course other units based on deck synergies. Like Scouts, you're going to want Grizzled Ranger, and Dragons, you're definitely going to want the Dragon Guard and other Dragon synergies. In terms of spells, the go-tos are for sure Single Combat and Sharp Sight, as these are some of the best cards in the entire game. If you have Demacia in your regions at all, then you definitely want to craft these ASAP in order to put them into most decks and fulfill a really strong purpose for them. Along with maybe a couple rallies. Demacia strategies usually revolve around using rallies for big swing turns, and Concerted Strike is also very good. In terms of champions, I would say the strongest Demacia champions are Shyvana and Galio. I think Quinn is also very good if you want to play Scouts. Lux is pretty good if you want to play Lux Jace, and Jarvan is pretty good if you want to play Jarvan Shen. The rest are a little bit underwhelming right now, but there might be some meta decks for them in the near future. Moving on to Freljord. The units that you're going to want are Omen Hawk for sure. Pretty good staple card, can be thrown into most Freljord decks. Aberration Sentry, just a really good vanilla draw card. I'd say Iceveil Archer is a go-to, especially since he's a common and can be a Frostbite synergy card. Ruthless Raider is pretty good. Aberration Trapper is very good. Finally, Tavern Keeper. Aberration Hearthguard, if you have the epic wildcards, he's pretty good to throw in most decks at like a 2 of, especially for beginner players. And then, of course, other Frostbite synergy cards if you're playing around Ashe. Pretty much anything that says Frostbite or has Frostbite synergy is pretty good, especially for new players that get the access to the Ashe deck after the 7-day login bonus. For spells, you're mostly looking for the same stuff. Freljord is home to some of the best combat tricks in the game, being Burst, Speed, Frostbites. Just setting the enemy's attack to 0 is really strong, so we got Brittle Steel for that, we got Flash Freeze for that, and we have Harsh Winds is another good one. Here it is, Harsh Winds Frostbite 2. All Burst, Speed, Frostbite, very good synergy with Ashe. Really good cards to play around. Other than that, we also have Elixir of Iron is a nice 2 of. I'd recommend crafting 2 of these and using them early. But the strongest Freljord spell is definitely Troll Chant. Give any ally 2 HP and give any enemy -2 attack this round. Really good for combat, especially for the low cost of 2 mana. Absolutely amazing. If you're playing more of the controlled styles, you're also going to want to pick up a couple avalanches and some ice shards to be able to deal with enemy boards while you set up your win condition. For the champions, Ashe is definitely very good for Freljord. Gnar is probably the best champion in the entire game right now, so I would also pick up Gnar before he gets nerfed. Trundle is very good, and I would avoid... Lyssandra's okay. I would avoid Udyr. Anivia is really good if you like a super controlled style. There's a Shadow Isles Freljord deck called Zombie Anivia that's super controlled. You can pick that up. Sejuani's pretty good, and Tryndamere is a little lackluster. Unless you're playing with Trundle for Feel the Rush. Feel the Rush is a pretty interesting deck. Moving on to Ionia. The units to look out for are Eye of the Dragon, Greenglade Duo, Shadow Assassin, because she's a nice versatile draw card that can be thrown into most Ionia strategies. And then after that is basically either Blade Dance stuff if you're playing as Zero Aurelia, or for the most part, this region is home to the most elusive units in the game, so a lot of the elusive strategies are also very good and decent units to pick up if you're playing an elusive aggressive deck. Now Ionia is also home to some of the most strong spells in the game, being the Deny spells. Things like Nopify, being able to stop your opponent's actions, along with Deny, also being able to stop your opponent's actions. Really, really frustrating to play around. Really, really strong as well. Concussive Palm is also a high value staple card. Homecoming is pretty good. Will of Ionia is pretty good. And of course, Twin Disciplines, one of the other strongest combat tricks in the game. Definitely pick up 3 of these as soon as you can. Now for champions, Ken and Ahri is a good deck together. It just got nerfed recently, so keep that in mind, but still a pretty good deck. Aurelia is pretty good in Azir Aurelia, also like a post-nerf strategy. Lulu is very good, Zed is very good, Shen is alright, Yasuo I would avoid for now, Karma same thing, and Lee Sin, he's pretty good, especially in a very specific style deck. Next we have Noxus, the Region of Aggression. So we're going to want to have a lot of these staple aggro cards. Rearguard, Saboteur, Precious Pet all come to mind, all very good aggressive units. House Spider, also really, really good. Demolitionist, Legion Grenadier, Iron Ballista for other aggressive strategies, Arachnoid Sentry, and Leviathan if you're playing Swain, or Pharaon if you're playing other slower strategies that need the decimates to finish the game. For spells, we're looking at a lot of direct damage or removal, so you're going to want Ravenous Flock if you're playing control style, Death's Hand if you're playing control, Culling Strike if you're playing control, Noxian Fervor if you're playing aggro, Scorched Earth if you're playing control, Decimate if you're playing aggro for sure, the best finisher that Noxus has, and that's pretty much it for that. Okay, next we have the champions. Draven is pretty good, Katarina I would avoid entirely, LeBlanc is pretty good, Riven I'd also tend to avoid, Rumble is pretty good if you want to play Discard with him and Scion. Swain is very good if you want to play a Noxus control style. Vladimir is alright, and Darius is also alright. Next we have Piltover and Zaun. So for units, we're looking at Fallen Feline if you're playing Echo, Forge Chief if you're playing Jace. Ballistic Bot is a really high value card. Boom Baboon's also very good. Eager Apprentice is alright. Financier is pretty good. And that's pretty much it for the base cards. Other than that, you got the Mushroom Cloud synergy if you want to play Teemo decks. Type in Mushroom Cloud, you can throw in the Chumpwump and the Clumpa-Wumps and the Puffcat Peddler, all very good for Teemo. And there's also like some discard synergy within the region with Sump Dredger and Zonite Urchin, really good for discard decks. Other than that, let's get to the spells. The spells of choice are Thermo Beam for removal. I think Poro Cannon's also very good for aggressive decks, being able to play discard synergy as well. Mystic Shot for removal. Time Trick for draw and consistency. Get Excited is good removal, and also has discard synergy. Piltover Peacemaker if you're playing Caitlyn, especially with Teemo, very, very good. And just like, look at this, look how much removal there's. There's Aftershock for removal, we got Gotcha for removal, we got Static Shock for removal. PNZ is home to some of the most versatile removal cards, being able to snipe opponents' units. Assembly Line is good if you're playing Jace. Shock Blast is good if you're playing Jace. Alright, so for champions, Teemo and Caitlyn are both good pickups if you want to play their deck. Very fun, trap-based deck, really annoying. Ezreal is pretty good. Echo is pretty good. Jace is pretty good. Jinx is, she's aight. Victor, I'd avoid. Heimer, he's aight. And Vi, she's aight as well. A lot of just general decent cards. None of these super like stand out or are like super, super meta. Next we have Shadow Isles, my favorite region. So for units, you can play the self-slay stuff like Ravenous Butcher and Cursed Keeper if you're playing that style. Really, really good with like Nasus or with Kindred. The Sentinels if you're playing a spell-based removal deck like Kindred, so either the Sentinels are very good. Let's see. Stygian is good for aggro. Most of the fearsome units are pretty good, like Arachnoid Horror is good. You can also just throw him into pretty much any deck. Just a 2-mana 3/2 with fearsome is nice. Wraiths if you're playing mono Shadow Isles. Sea Scarab if you're playing deep. Here's the other Sentinel I was talking about earlier. Very good with Kindred spell removal based decks. Chemovoran Soldier if you want to play Viego. Doombeast for Nightfall, also just a pretty good general card. Same with Frenzied Skitter. Wraithcaller if you're playing mono Shadow Isles. Hydravine if you're playing Viego. And Rekindler is pretty good in general as well. Alright. So for spells, Shadow Walls has a couple good removal spells and a couple also good reactive tools, like Glimpse Beyond. I'd highly recommend crafting this as soon as possible. Glimpse is really good at countering opponents trying to use removal on your cards. You get to kill the ally first and draw 2 from it. Vile Feast is a must run, one of the best cards Shadow Walls has access to. Really cheap, everyone should run it. Drain 1 and summon a spider, so you get to deal 1 damage to a unit, and also heal 1, and summon a 1/1 body. Very good all in one card. I would say Black Spear is pretty alright as well, especially since it's a common, can be good for removal. Stalking Shadows is pretty good. You can look at the top 4 cards of your deck and pick a card, and you get to draw it and add an ephemeral copy, so you get to have extra resources from this. It's like a pseudo draw card. Now some of the removal to look at is Box, very good removal. Grasp is pretty good. Withering Wail is very good. Vengeance is very good. Piercing Darkness is pretty good, especially if you're playing Senna Vagar Darkness. Atrocity is a pretty good win condition. Harrowing is pretty good, and Ruination is pretty good for control strategies. What's cool about Shadow Wilds is a lot of the spells are actually just like pretty decent. I like them a lot. Alright, moving on to champions. Elise is really strong. Luckily, as a new player, you get a couple copies of her early. Callista is pretty below average. Kindred's pretty good if you want to play control and use spells for removal. Maokai is really good if you want to play deep. Nocturne is alright. Nightfall's not really in the best place right now, but really fun deck regardless. Vagar and Senna are both really good. Probably the premium Shadow Wilds control deck in the meta right now, being able to play Darkness and Darkness Energy cards. Thresh is okay. Viego is slightly above average, and Hecarim is okay. Moving on to Bilgewater. Some of the best units are Crackshot Corsair if you're playing aggro, Jagged Butcher for the same reason, Sharpling and Lurk cards if you're playing Lurk, of course. Mirai Warden is one of the best like vanilla Bilgewater cards, meaning she can go into a lot of strategies, that has actually come out in recent times. She's really good. Just boom, 2 mana 2/1 that summons another 1 cost. Nice 2 bodies for the price of 1. Good value. You can get some crazy 1 cost synergy with it too. I think Hired Gun is actually a very good Bilgewater card as well, just throw into most decks. Island Navigator if you're playing Scouts. Zap Sprayfin, also a really good card, being able to be a consistency value, drawing you a spell. And that's pretty much it for Bilgewater units that don't have like deck-specific strategies, like, you know, Dreg Dredgers if you're playing deep and stuff like that. General Bilgewater spells of choice include Warning Shot, being able to proc Plunder. Jettison for deep, of course. We got Make It Rain, which is one of the best removal spells that Bilgewater has. 2 mana, just deal 1 to 3 different things, kinda nice. I think Line 'em Up is pretty good, especially in Bilgewater control strategies. Monster Harpoon for sure. And that's pretty much it for the generally good cards. Next we have Champions. Fizz is pretty funny. He's thrown into a lot of little strategies. There's not a lot of decks that play around him specifically, but he is a good slot in for some good Bilgewater stuff. Misfortune if you're playing Scouts. Nami if you want to play Elusives, and Prank. Nami Fizz do go together as well. Nami also goes with Twisted Fate. Pike if you want to play Lurk. Tom Kench, I'd kind of avoid. He's very underwhelming right now. Twisted Fate, very good. Just generally decent utility card and has good play arounds. Also, like being able to use red card for removal, really awesome. He has a lot of flexibility. That's why he's a slot in for a lot of Bilgewater strategies. Gangplank is a good finisher. Nautilus if you're playing deep. Next we have Targon, one of the more popular regions this meta. So we have Saga Seeker, Faded, very good if you're playing Pantheon. Loping Telescope, which is a half Bandle City card, very good, really strong, being able to find other resources. Mountain Goat, a Wounded White Flame, for sure. This is one of the strongest units Targon has. And that's it for the general stuff. Of course, you can play Daybreak with Leona and craft the Daybreak cards. They're pretty good. There's also a couple dragons in Targon, like Fuse Firebrand and White Flame Protector, if you want to play Shyvana Aurelion Soul Dragons. So those are something to look out for as well. For spells, we got Gifts from Beyond is pretty good, being able to get a Crescendum, which always fetches a 2-cost follower from your deck. It's good in a versatile amount of decks and strategies, where a specific 2-cost card is a highlight of the deck. Guiding Touch, pretty good heal plus draw. Hell Cascade is probably one of the best combat tricks that Targon has. Really good. grant an ally +1/+1 this round. If it's not the first card you play this round, you can also draw 1 off of it, so it cycles itself. Very, very good. I'd say Pale Cascade is a must run, must grab 3 of in most Targon strategies. Sunblast is alright. Hush is very good. You want to pick up a couple Hushes. Zenith Blade, really good, being able to give units a overwhelm finish win condition. A couple Bastions. And I'd say a couple Star Shapings are pretty good as well. Those are all very generally efficient Targon cards. Now for the champions, Zoe is very, very good for Targon strategies. Diana is mainly used in Nightfall, but has been paired with Zoe in some other value-based decks, so she's pretty good as well. Aphelios, I would avoid for now. Soraka, same thing. Yumi is pretty good, especially with Pantheon. Leona is good if you want to play a Daybreak mid-range deck. Pretty average, but I very much enjoy playing it. Pantheon, really strong right now. This is a must-grab if you want to get into the meta. Eric is slightly above average. I kind of like him with Pantheon as well if you don't like the Yumi playstyle. Malphite, pretty good with Talia and landmark strategies. And Aurelion Sol, very good with Shyvana for Dragon Synergy. Overall, Targon champions are very, very good. Aside from Aphelios and Soraka, who aren't seeing a lot of play right now. Next we have Shurima. Let's see some of the high-value Shurima units. I would say Treasure Seeker and Dune Keeper are both solid 1-drops. Bakai Reaper if you want to play a Nasus strategy as well. Chronomancer, very, very good. Rockhopper, very, very good. You want to get them. Endless Devout, really good for landmark decks. And it's just like a 3-mana 3/3. Super solid stats. Merciless Hunter, very good still. Vagabond if you're playing Akshan. Desert Naturalist if you're playing landmarks. And then of course other Lurk synergy cards if you're playing a Lurk deck. Now for spells. Exhaust is pretty good actually, especially for new players. Being able to grab enemy units and make them have less attack, being able to kill priority champions is a lot of value. Shapestone, really good if you play any amount of landmarks. That way you get this as a buff. Ruthless Predator is good if you're playing around Renekton. The Absolver is really good to give your units or champions an overwhelm strategy. Quicksand is good for defensive play. Rite of Negation, which is Shurima's Deny, also really good. You might want to get a couple of these. And that's pretty much it for the generally good cards. Now the champions. Akshan is a very strong Shurima champion. Couple cool decks surrounding him. The one that comes to mind is Akshan Sivir, being able to play Shurima and Demacia strike cards. Zillion is pretty good. Azir is pretty good, especially with like the Ascended deck if you want to play that. It's a casual strategy, but Azir is very good in it. We are hoping he gets a revert because he got nerfed a while back. We want to see our boy Azir rise to the top again. Let's go. Rek'Sai, pretty good if you want to play Lurk. Like really, really good deck. Ziggs, very good general aggressive champion. 3-mana 3/4, really good stats, can be played in aggressive strategies. Renekton, he's alright. Sivir, very good with Akshan. Xerath is good with landmark strategies. Talia, same thing. And Nasus he's probably like very average, but Nasus decks are also enjoyable. Our final region and the one that is the newest. Let's take a look at the units. Strong Bandle City units include Inventive Chemist, Otterpuss, Yordle Squire is used in a couple strategies, Bandle Commando, Blastcone Seedling is used for Fae strategies, Bomber Twins is good, Conchologist is good, Dark Bulb Acolyte is good, for Darkness, Grandfather Fae is good, Loping Telescope I mentioned earlier is really good, Quick Quill's pretty good, Stone Stackers is very good, Catalyzer is really good in Darkness, Babbling Balladeers is good with Fae, Bandle City Mare is very good in general, Nakotak is pretty good with Gnar strategies, Gleaming Lantern is broken with Fae. Definitely want to pick up multiple of this card if you want to play a Fae deck. Aloof Travelers is very good and very annoying. Ignore the fact that I have it prismatic. Don't worry about that. It was a gift. Trust. Robemaker is very good for darkness. Teeny Dactyl is one of the strongest cards in the game. Not kidding. Really, really good in aggressive strategies and also anything that plays around Gnar. Yordle Captain is very good. Spotted Toad is good for Gnar synergy. And Arsenal is going to be an auto-include for landmark decks if you want to play the Zillion, Zareth, Talia, any number of those, and you want to play landmark stuff, Arsenal is going to be your win condition. And now for spells, we got really good removal for some reason. Group Shot's good, Poison Dart's good, Pokestick is one of the best cards in the game. Gnar generates it, and Bandle City decks are abusing it at an auto-include 3 of, so craft 3 of these as soon as possible if you want to play anything with Bandle in it. Fey 8 is really good for Fey decks. I think Wallop is really good, and people should start hard running this card more. It's a stun, and it's also a deal 1. Friendship is pretty good, being able to give your ally barrier or spell shield. Your choice. Yordles and Arms, really good for swarm strategies. And Minimorph, being really strong burst speed pseudo removal for opponents' units that are too problematic to deal with. Just turn them into a 3/3. And for champions, we got a lot of Yordles. We got Fizz, which I mentioned earlier. He's pretty good. Kendon's pretty good. Teemo is pretty fun. More of a casual strategy. Lulu's very good. Tristana is actually getting more and more popular. Yumi's very good with Pantheon. Ziggs is really good in general for aggressive strategies. Gnar is just like the best champion in the game right now. I'd say S++ tier. You can throw him into like multiple decks and just abuse the fact that he generates Pokestick, abuse the fact that he's Bandle City, and just use him as a pressure tool and win condition. He's just all around really good. Poppy, she's alright. She's been nerfed a couple times. Kind of feels bad. Rumble is really enjoyable, and I think he's strong. I think Rumble Discard is a good deck. Veigar, of course, if you want to play control style, play that Darkness. And Heimer, like I mentioned earlier from PNZ, he's aight. So yeah, that's it for the cards of each region. Hopefully I was able to showcase some of the cards that you weren't aware of as being popular or generally good. And I wanted this video to be good for like, if you're splashing regions together, like let's say Demacia and Noxus, but you don't really know what the best cards are. Well, hopefully now, knowing that Sharp Sight, Single Combat, and like Concerted Strike from Demacia are all really good, along with the aggressive units from Noxus, combine them together and make, you know, just a generally powerful deck. And it's also really good for a crafting guide in order to get the most out of your resources early and craft cards that are going to be played in multiple decks. So hopefully I was able to showcase some of those for you guys, and that you're able to build whatever deck you want to make and also have fun with the game. So that's it for this one. Please like and subscribe if you thought this video was informative or entertaining. It really helps me out since I'm still trying to grow. I'll be releasing more deck profiles, guides, and gameplay highlights in the near future. Thank you so much for watching and have a good one. Laters!